All right. Well, welcome. Thank you very much for your application and congratulations on making it this far. You've reached the in-person interview process
Thank you
for
so much for
this role.
considering me.
So this is the Vision Care Marketing Graduate Internship. So this is the first time we've met face to face. So why don't you start by telling me a little bit about yourself and why you think you'd be a good fit for the role?
Sure. Okay, so a little bit about myself. My name is Maria Fernanda. I am from Peru, and I did my bachelor's degree there in business administration with a focus on marketing. And then I decided to, where I got the opportunity to travel abroad to Spain and study for 6 months in a place called Avila. And that was there, I actually realized that I needed to know more about different cultures that I really like and enjoy being in a completely different country, in a different continent as well. So when I went back to Peru, I finished my bachelor's degrees and I started working at the marketing area at one of the largest companies in Peru, which is Grupo Gloria. And I was in charge of dealing with the marketing budget. I was in charge also of the making several events, making sure that our clients and customers were feeling comfortable about our products. And if they had problems, I was in charge of dealing with that and making sure they were feeling very well with our responses. And well, after 3 years, a little bit more than 3 years, I decided to pursue my master's degree in the United States, and I chose Thunderbird because of their global mindset, their perspective, the different courses that they have, and I'm going to focus on digital transformation. And so in marketing, I will really like to make these accurate decisions based on data, based on the analysis of that, because we really need that information in order to make good decisions. And your second question was about what would I make a good fit in the company? Well, because um, in particular in the vision care section, I myself experienced that, and actually I needed to use different products similar as yours, because I didn't have the opportunity to actually use that product in my city because they actually uh, don't have it there, but I use similar ones, and I know how customers really experience that. So I really am going to, well, expect to enjoy that position and be able to impart more knowledge there.
And so, uh, do you know much about the corporate culture at Johnson and Johnson?
Well, yes, I know that in general, Johnson and Johnson is focused on improving not only their customers, but their customers are doctors, nurses, and mother, fathers, and clients in general that use their product. So I know Johnson and Johnson is also focused on the pharmaceutical, their products, well, in general, and since they have different products, different services, Johnson and Johnson needs to have different approaches. So according to that, they need to focus their strategy based on their core or their umbrella brands, to make it that way.
And so, why don't we shift over to your experience specifically on the product management side of things?
I'm sorry, can you
On
repeat the question?
Sure, on the product management side of things. So, do you have any experience with the history that you talked about specifically on product management marketing?
Yes. So, in my experience in when I was working in my previous company, I was actually in charge of developing new products, and we developed two different products while I was there, and then I got the chance to actually make a research with another company. And then with that research, I was able to approach, okay, where do we need to sell this product? And what are the benefits of this product and how are the customers are going to feel about this product. Is there really a need for this? And not only selling the product, it's also about what is behind that and how can customers actually feel that they are going to need this product not only once, but they are going to acquire, because it's also about their experience. And if they have a good experience the first time, then they're going to keep buying this product because they trust in this product. And now talking about the health, it's even more important because you're not buying a sound device, you're not buying something like a table, you're buying something for your health. So you're going to spend more time and probably more money investigating what product really you need, depending of course on your needs, on your if you have health problems. So I will definitely, being in the marketing team, will be taking care of all of that.
And what type of products were you marketing?
Oh, if there were, I was working in a construction company, so I was, uh, if the product is cement, and then for construction, and well, of course, it's a completely different market, but the idea of our customers' needs, the idea of the customer journey, it's the same. So yeah, it's a different product.
Yep. And so how do you think that your skills based on what you were doing in that industry would transfer over to the medical device or consumer packaged goods industry?
Because as I mentioned at the beginning, I was like on the other side of the brand, right? On the customer side. So being there and actually experiencing the same that the customers need to experience makes me realize and have another perspective actually of what customers are really looking at. So even though I don't have that experience based on this kind of products, I can easily use the same tools that I used before and apply it to this new market.
And what do you think the three most important skills are for a marketing career?
Okay, the first one would be being able to analyze the data and use it to make accurate decisions. For instance, if you have a different surveys, like different information about your customers, and you're not able to use it wisely, then it's not going to function. It's not going to be worth it. So you really need to be able to analyze and based on that, make decisions. So probably one strategy is going to be a really good strategy in a certain market. But in another one, you need to apply another strategy. The second one would be the relationship you need to have with the whole team, like the leadership strategy. Because if you're able to communicate that to your coworkers, then you will probably have a really good idea, but it's going to be a better idea if you share it with your coworkers. And it is exactly the same, the opposite. If your coworkers share with you an idea and you think you have another one that applies better or you can improve that idea, it's going to be like a teamwork. And the last one could be something related to their target market. So being able to identify so you have a product. So how can you identify these customers? So maybe you will have one kind of communication for certain customers and another, like a completely new one, to different customers. So yeah, those are the three things that I think that the most important thing in marketing.
So why don't you take me through a new product launch as far if you're going to be managing the launch of a new product for Johnson and Johnson, what are some of the steps you think would be included for that product launch?
For a new product launch, you mean?
Yes.
Of course. So in the Johnson and Johnson vision, uh, the main product is the Acuvo. Acuvo, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it well, but that product is inside that brand. There are different products. So, for instance, if Johnson and Johnson needs to develop a new one, the first thing they need to do is to make sure what are the needs of the customers. Do they need a product to be more easy to use? Do they need a product to be lighter or to take waste longer? Sometimes they use a product and they discard it like each day. If they are going to produce something like that lasts longer, then they will apply a different strategy. So start there, start with the technology, start with the innovation, because at the same time, if you have an idea, but then it's not viable, it's not going to work. So work with that department, with the technology department and innovation. And then of course, before launching, try try with different maybe employees, maybe with different customers. And then if the company or the marketing team is 100% sure that it's going to work, then the next step will be communicate to their customers. And then of course finally distribute the product. And again, it depends where it's going to be distributed, to every single store, or depending on the market, maybe we'll start with one market and then we'll move to different markets.
Okay. How familiar are you with our company's target market, our customer base?
Okay, so it depends on the product. We are still talking about the vision care.
So yeah, we do have different divisions. So we have the medical division, we have a consumer division, and we even have research-based products. So it really would depend on which division you're working on within our company. So why don't we talk on the consumer side? So how familiar are you with the consumer, our target market, consumer wise?
Okay, so talking about the consumer, uh, you have mentioned it in the beginning the mothers and fathers, and also nurses are kind of their target market. But in general, I would say Johnson and Johnson is focused on families. And talking about the vision, we can actually divide, and younger people with needs different products, older people with needs products focused more on different health problems that your eyes may have at an older age. So I'm familiarized with that in terms of the division, right? I will really need to divide the market, because in general I will set families.
Okay. And how would you stay up to date with the latest marketing trends and techniques?
So I follow the Forrester trends, and they publish like year to year their predictions. Sometimes they got right, sometimes they got wrong, but it's a really good strategy. Also, the Wall Street Journal and the New York Times. I have it in my desktop, so I follow the trends there and maybe some innovations. I also follow in different social media platforms, different trends. Also, LinkedIn is a really good tool to follow different in not only companies, also people are really enjoy to share different techniques, different innovations. So I would like to keep up with that.
So at Johnson and Johnson, some of the big hiring steps that we have as far as the candidate match, one, we really focus on our credo as a company, and then we look at corporate culture, how you'd be a fit within our organization, and then the third one is really the core competencies in the role. So based on those three key areas, how do you think you stand out compared to other candidates specifically to this internship role?
Okay, so I would say it's the combination of different things. So first of all, I mentioned I'm an international student. I'm from Peru, and my main language is Spanish. Then I speak English, and second thing will be I am able to relocate. Like if you need me in one city, then when you need me in another city, I can usually adapt to that. Pretty flexible with that. Then I had like my previous experience in marketing, and now I'm specializing or concentrating in digital transformation, which is a thing that most companies are looking at. I think it's very important now. And another thing will be, as I mentioned before, I was on the other side of the customer journey. I was can be considered as a customer, know the needs of the people that need glasses, and even though contact glasses, like real glasses, it's a whole new world. And I also like to be constantly innovating, constantly learning about different things. I'm really excited and motivated to pursue this in this particular role.
And last question for you, and then you can ask questions of me. How do you think social media has changed the marketing platform, and specifically to our company? What do you think? What have you seen, if anything? But what do you think we should be doing or considering to do in the future with regards to social media and our customers?
Okay, yes. So in terms of social media, people in general are more willing to share their stories, their experience with a particular product or service. So let's say we work with an influencer that has been through the use of our products or services, and this influencer posts their experience. Then customers really trust, because it's not like the company is directly telling you this is my best product. It's like they are trusting another person that is saying, like the person has been through all of this, so they are trusting that. So companies need to really focus on that. And another thing that I would like to mention is that I know that people in general divided into groups. One of them are really not willing to share more data through Google, through Facebook, Instagram, because they kind of not trust in general. They don't have trust. But the other half's like, Google knows everything about me, so it's not a big deal. So again, this is also an issue, and at the same time the company can see this as an advantage because of people are more willing to share data, but the other side also needs to be considerate. For now, I would set focus on trends, and in general, keep posting on social media, keep that innovation part, and people really like to to see that the company is doing something else for people in need, for health. They are not only looking about the product or service, they look for more. So the company needs to be aware of that.
Great. Do you have any questions for me?
Yes. So how is it Johnson and Johnson's taking the COVID, like in the whole year? I know that you have different, like the medical part, like the pharmaceutical. So how was COVID? How did COVID affected the company in general?
Yeah, a few different ways because surprisingly, we had a decrease in demand for some of our products because a lot of the major operations or other facilities that were usually busy weren't busy because it was locked down because of COVID. In other areas, people needed more safety equipment. So we had some areas that were slower or busier, surprisingly. But now that a lot of the restrictions have been lifted, some of that demand has come back across the board. But we definitely have seen a shift into more medical products being consumed for safety, and also with people spending more time at home than they were before. It's more of the consumer products than the retail products, because you can consider if you're at home and not traveling to a hotel, you're using those products versus the commercial type products. So we've seen a growth in our home-based product sales.
Well, it makes sense. And then my second and last question will be, what is like as an employee, what is the thing that you value most of working at Johnson and Johnson?
So it's really the culture of everyone. It's a great place to work. I've been with the company for over 11 years. And so I've had many changes within the company, different positions. So there's a lot of internal opportunity, but the people within the organization really are singing from the same sheet of music. And we believe in the same beliefs about how we're going to improve our products and provide to the community. So it's really, it's a singular focus on business, which is really nice.
Okay, thank you.
So, anything else? Any last thoughts on what we should consider you, or something else you want to know about the position or the company?
Mm, yeah, well, I would say like in general, what will be the next steps for the position?
Good question. So yeah, so at the end of the interview process, we'll evaluate the candidates
Mhm.
and we'll determine which candidates will move forward to the next stage. And at this point, it'd be another Zoom interview. Typically, the next stage would be in person. But because of the current situation, we're not having candidates travel. So the next stage is another Zoom interview. It'll be with my boss. And then the final step would be with the vice president of the division, who would be interviewing the final candidates. And at that point, there's a group of people that would get back together and evaluate, make a final decision.
Oh, okay, okay. Thank you so much for sharing.
And do you have any needs for notice from somewhere, or what's your availability?
No, I will just like to know about the next steps through email or a phone call, and that's it.
But as far as your timing, when are you available?
Oh yeah, mostly on Friday I'm always available, and then on the Thursday and Tuesday at the evenings, because I have classes um, the whole morning, and then I work the other days at the afternoon.
But
Um,
when would you be available to start? So what would your potential start date be for this internship role?
oh, okay. So it will be on May of 2021, and
Okay.
then I'm free until middle August of 2021. Yes.
Okay, great. Well, thank you very much for coming, and we'll get back to you.
Okay. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. All right,
I
good job. So
was nervous.
you need to smile more, because you had a couple of moments where you smiled, where you were comfortable, but it absolutely helps. It makes you come across so much more friendly, and I think it'll help you to relax too when you know that you're smiling, because you do get to enjoy it, right?
Yes, actually, yes, because you're excited because you've been looking, like searching about this company, and then you get to answer those questions. So yeah, you do get excited.
Yeah, so definitely, and let your personality come through more,
Mhm.
because the the questions and answers are important, but they're not as important as you.
Okay.
You are more important than the questions and the answers, because in the end, they're not hiring the answers.
They're hearing the personality.
Right, exactly.
Okay.
So that's really important. So what you're doing, so the other thing that I would do is really prepare some more questions that are specific to the role and the
Mhm.
department, and do some research as well about the hiring manager. so you can see things in their background. And then your biggest opportunity to point out your skills and strengths is when they ask you about yourself. And the important thing is you want to be focused on the examples that are specific to this position. So a little bit of the backstory is helpful, but you really want to focus on about you, how it's a fit for this company, and how it's a fit for this position. So your target, once you get the interview, you're it's a whole new game, because until you get the interview, your whole goal is to get the interview, right?
Yes.
Well, once you got the interview, now you already got it. So now they've asked you to be here. They've asked you to be here because they think you might be the right person for the role.
Mm-hmm.
So now your task is to be the right person for the role. That's your task. Your task isn't to come and answer questions. Your task is to figure out what they're looking for
Mm-hmm.
and be that person.
Okay.
If you didn't have a chance, you wouldn't be here already.
Mm-hmm.
So the fact that you made it this far means you do have a chance. And whoever the candidate is that relays the message best, that I am the perfect position for perfect person for this role, they're the one that gets the role.
Okay.
It's not based on how they answered questions. It's not just based on who they are. It's, are they the perfect fit for the company and for the position? And so so your job pre-interview is to do your homework and figure out what they're looking for. So the other thing that you can do early in the interview is, it's a really good question to ask. And I recommend to ask this question before you answer the question of, tell me a little bit about yourself. Reverse it just for a moment and say, great, do you mind if I first ask what's important for you in this position?
Okay.
Because then you can tailor your answer on telling about you to cover the things that are most important for them on the role. And it gives you that, it suddenly, and the fact that you're asking the question shows that you care. It shows that you're smart enough to really want to focus on what's important to them, which is what it's all about. Because your goal is to be that person they're looking for. If you don't know what they're looking for, you can't be that person, right? You might,
That is true.
it's
Yeah.
a shot in the dark. You can guess, I think they're looking for this. I'm going to be this. But what if they're looking for is this? And you can be that too. Like your scope, your scale is like this, right? You can be over here, you can be over there. But once you identify that this is what they're looking for, you can really focus your effort and stories and examples specific to what they're looking for. So that's really important. And then um, have don't be afraid to take notes too as you're hearing things. You did a really good job of, when, like, just saying, give me 3 examples, of making sure you gave 3. When I started with a 2-part question, you answered both parts. So those are really important. You did a really good job on that, because they want to show that you can listen
Mm-hmm.
and that you understand and that you haven't forgotten and things like that. It's really easy just to go off on a tangent. So you did a good job of keeping your answers not so short that it was not interesting, but also not so long that they're like having to cut you off.
Yeah, that's the thing that I want to avoid. So sometimes I spend more time talking than, of course, on American, but I don't want to spend more time. And as you were saying, sometimes I talk 2 minutes, and if I'm not saying the things that they want to hear, then they will be like,
They,
okay, okay, move
yeah,
on.
they stop
Right?
listening.
Yes, they
Yeah.
stop listening. Yes.
So that's key. So I think that, and so the funny thing is, I actually reached out to somebody from Johnson and Johnson about this role,
Oh.
and they're the ones that told me that I was mentioning the company's credo, the corporate fit,
Mhm.
and the specifically the capabilities for the role. That actually came from an 11-year Johnson and Johnson employee.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And so I didn't make that up.
Yeah.
That's so
I
what
was
I wanted to do
thinking
for you today is find out what their interview process is
Mm-hmm.
and how they do focus the interview. And that's how what she said is really how they break it down. So really make sure you understand the credo. Pick a little phrase from it that you think is representative of where you come from or what your history is or what you like or what's important to you. And the same thing for the corporate culture. Pick something in the corporate culture that is a really good fit for you. So when they give you the opportunity of why you're a fit, you can cover those bases because they're going to be saying, "Oh, is she a fit based on our credo?" "Oh, yeah, she is." "What about our corporate culture?" "Yep, she is." "What about her capabilities in the role?" And so if you can do those things, you start checking off the boxes. And
Okay.
because there's in most big companies, it's considered a behavioral interview, and they have to ask the same questions to the candidates. I don't know specifically if J&J does this, but like a big company like American Express. And if you are familiar and comfortable and do well in that style, you're going to rank well on the questions. And then they score it up. And then you'll be one of the ones with the highest score. And that's what you have to do because, especially the bigger the company, the more formal the interview process is.
Okay.
The smaller companies, they just sort of do it off the cuff and it's a conversation, it's a
Mhm.
chat, and then it might literally be, "Oh, I really liked her glasses. And she seemed sharp and I liked the way she communicated and let's give her a chance." The big companies, none of that matters. The big companies, it's a scoreboard, it's a line item, it's questions, it's points. And so you've got to play the game
Okay.
and understand the environment you're going into and make sure you're playing to win because that's why you're here, right?
Yeah.
Is you want to be the best candidate for the role. And so the asking about next steps is really important. So that's why I opened that door for you because you sort of ended, right?
Yeah, I know.
So
Yeah.
you were done.
That idea and that question, because I know it's important to ask that.
It's really important. So I gave you that other chance
Yes.
and you took it. So good job because now you're going to remember and you're not going to have them ask you again.
Yeah, okay.
Uh,
I'm going to write that down.
exactly. So good job doing it. But I shouldn't have had to give you that extra chance for it. But that's why you do the practice, right?
Yes.
Because that's exactly what you need to figure out because they want to know you're interested in the role. And if you aren't asking good questions and you're not curious about the next steps, you're probably not that interested.
Yes.
And so the smile helps a lot to show that you're interested and you're engaging.
Mhm.
And make sure you're sitting forward. And if you can, one of the little tricks with your camera, even with a picture, bring the face of the person you're talking with up right up to the lens. So
Oh,
the
okay.
eyes are on the person's eyes. So go
Oh,
ahead if you can try. I don't know if you can bring it up at all, but
yeah, I have it up now.
yeah. So now that's better for the eye contact. So again, it makes a big difference. So what you just did now, I see you better instead of looking like this.
Oh, yes.
So you're talking like this. So it's particularly so this is sort of what you're looking down like that. But by bringing your eyes up, you can connect. And particularly here, since we're doing Zoom calls,
Mhm.
it's so important to do that. And so even the placement, I can see your computer's low because I'm looking up behind you. So try bringing your computer up higher and set it on something. So
Okay.
the camera is more face level because you don't have a problem, but once you get older, things like this start to happen. You're young enough that it's not a problem, but literally by bringing your computer up higher and looking into the camera, it'll be more like a face-to-face conversation and less like a Zoom call of people looking away from the camera. So those few things, your lighting looks really good. You picked a good simple environment. I can hear you well. So you did all those things really well. But I think those are some of the things, particularly in this current Zoom interview environment.
Yeah.
There are executives getting vice president level roles that never meet in person, which is so weird. So I'm
Wow.
hoping that by next May it'll be different and you'll be able to travel for those final steps.
Mhm.
But particularly for any interviews that are online, take advantage of every advantage you can to show that you prepared and that you care and do it right. And so like even right now, I can see your eyes so much better. And so that's something that you definitely want to do. And even so now I'm looking directly into the camera. So look at the connection here of me looking into the camera talking to you versus of this is me looking at your eyes on the screen. So you can see the difference.
It changed.
So
Yeah. So
yes,
you recommend looking at the camera always? It's kind of difficult, but yeah, I can
yeah,
see the difference.
particularly when you're answering a question,
Okay.
you want to look up at the camera because you're connecting, and it makes a difference. But you also want to pay attention because like I had one interview where the front camera wasn't working. It was the back camera to me, so I had to flip it around, so I couldn't see the interviewer's face. This was several years ago,
Oh,
and I missed all of the information I would have received by body language.
of
So,
course.
so pay attention to that. If they seem to suddenly be drifting away or not paying attention or looking at somewhere else, it's time to wrap up your answer and get on to something else, or maybe even have some questions ready to go if you think it's getting dull. So come prepared. As I said, there's a phrase. It's called loaded for bear. So be prepared for the big game. Don't so your preparation beforehand probably should be several times longer than the interview. Because
Okay.
if you're doing your homework, you're going to know a lot, and you're only going to use 5 or 10% of that information
Yeah,
for
that's
the interview, but you're going to be ready.
okay. And I do have a question. So when the recruiter asks a question in general, how much time do I have to respond the question? Will it take me, you have 2 minutes, you have 1 minute, 3 minutes, or it
And
depends on the question?
speaking of that, this Zoom meeting may cut off in a minute. And if it does, we can just reconnect because I have a few more minutes, but it might stop. So, and it really, you've got to figure that out based on the environment. I think one important thing to do would be to understand how long the interview is. I've had many interviews where it gets cut short because we're out of time.
Mhm.
And so I think that's a good thing up front just to ask because it'll show that you're a planner
Okay.
is, hey, now how much time do we have prepared for this interview? And that way you can keep an eye on time and you can keep an eye on the length of the questions that you have. If so, because, and I've also had interviews where they say, I've got 30 minutes and then we talk for more than an hour.
Oh,
So sometimes that they're sort of doing that just to keep it short, but you don't need to end if they want to continue talking.
of
And
course.
so you want to be a sort of a combination of respectful for their time while also taking full advantage of as much time as you can get from them.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
you need to
makes
find that
sense.
balance.
Yes, find the balance. And as you said, like the corporate language helps as well.
Yep.
So I will keep that in mind. Thank you.
Great. So did I share with you the webinar that I did on job searching?
Yes, yes, I
Great.
saw that video.
Okay,
We
great.
you recommend like what things we need to keep in mind in an
Yep.
interview, and that yes, I saw
Great.
it.
I just wanted, if I hadn't shared it with you, I wanted to pass it along.
Oh
So
no,
great.
it was great. Thank you so much for sharing that. It was great.
You're welcome. But you communicate very well, and I think that your head's definitely in the right place for this kind of a position.
Mhm.
Um, I think you picked an easy one to do a mock interview for, because there's not many requirements for qualifications for the job, as far because it's an internship, right?
Yeah.
So the more complicated the job, the more research you'll need to do in preparation. But I think that you were very prepared for the role and the right level of information and experience. And the person I was talking with was one at J&J, is one of the contacts that you had on your list,
Oh,
Bree Oliveri.
okay.
And
Oh,
Bree gave me her direct email address, her corporate J&J email address. So I'll
okay.
pass that along to you, and you can let her know that we did the mock interview, and you can, that way when it does come time, you will have a contact at J&J, and she's a Thunderbird alumni.
Oh,
And so that way you'll have some connection, even though it's a different group and maybe not for this job, but you'll have at least a name to drop, and you can sort of tell the story that, you did a mock interview to prepare, and somebody at J&J provided feedback, and that sort of thing. It helps. Every little bit, every little thing, story that you can show that you're connected and you care and you did preparation, it helps. So use this story. If you literally are interviewing for an internship at J&J,
Mhm.
this needs to be part of your story, because they want to show you put in the time, you put in the effort, and because they know if you did that, then you'll do the same thing for their position.
For the position, yes. I didn't mention because I didn't you didn't ask this question, but I also got the opportunity to talk with Laura Rodriguez. She was working at Johnson and Johnson for more than 30 years, and she also gave me more insight about the company and everything because, well, she's from Costa Rica, but I was networking with her, and she really helped me a lot about knowing more about the company, and it was great like talking with her. She gave me a lot of feedback, and I don't know if I can also mention this as you're telling me. Could
For
be.
sure. And those contacts help. And that can be because they might ask you, why are you interested in working at Johnson and Johnson is a common question. And so that would be a good example. And you can say, I'm really looking for somewhere I can have a career path. I spoke to someone that worked there for 30 years, and you can share that story because it really shows that. And that's what a lot of companies are looking for, is not somebody that's looking to do a job for a year or two for the next promotion. They want somebody to work and get promoted within the company.
Mhm. Oh,
So yeah,
okay.
all those kind of contacts are good.
Okay, great. And I didn't just apply because I wanted to make sure if my resume was okay. Did you get the chance to just review it a little bit? Because I was like making different changes, but I don't know if I can use the same resume. Like I use different words because I know the very things first things they do is like put in the robots and machines and they scan and depending on that,
Right.
though I will pass or not. So
So the funny thing about resumes is the only purpose of the resume is to get an interview.
yes.
And so once you reach the interview, the resume doesn't matter. So
Mm-hmm.
it's really just to get an interview. So that's your whole goal, is it's just a step. And so that's something important to keep in mind, in that it's really just a step. And this step of the interview, the only reason to get to for this step is the next step of the interview process, which is why you need to know what the next step is. Because
Oh,
that's the only goal right now, is to make it to the next step. And so it's also important to be interviewing the company too, because you are valuable. Whatever company gets you will be lucky to get you.
thank you.
And so you need to keep that in mind as you're doing the interview, and that it is a two-way street interview wise. You're also interviewing the company, because maybe during the interview, you'll realize, this isn't somewhere I want to be, or this isn't the right role. And so it's important to figure that out before you're at the final stage of the process, because it would be really sad to you get a job offer that you don't want, and it happens. And so but even then, I've also been in interviews where after the interview I've decided I don't want the job.
Oh.
Then I get offered the job, and I'm like, oh well, maybe I do want the job. and and one of those jobs I accepted, and I worked there for more than 5 years.
Oh
So
wow.
so the fact is that you need to, like you mentioned, you're flexible. Be flexible during your job search as well, and
Mhm.
that's a really important part of it, because you're going to learn more each step along the way, and you'll become more valuable each step along the way as well.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But yes,
Thank.
I've got your resume up here in front of me. Think it's, as far as style and format goes, it's fine. There's not like I don't think it's too packed, because some people have said that they don't like it to be too packed, because it's
Mhm.
really about those first few seconds. And so the for people that know what Thunderbird is, it's good. A lot of people don't have any idea what it is, so it doesn't help. But anytime they do, it's helpful.
Mhm.
Um, so I like the fact that you've got statistics in there. That's really helpful. And it should really be about, like what you have here, about what you accomplished and were successful at,
Mhm.
not what your responsibilities were. So that's key, is really have it be based on accomplishments. And so as you're reading it, just put on the interviewer hat. And the one other thing I mentioned, if you're applying all for marketing related jobs, then it's the right resume. But let's say you're doing more of a project manager kind of a job application, and you decided, hey, this is the other thing I can do. You'd want to create a version of your resume that's more based on the project management steps and the things that you did. And
Okay.
so you're not going to tailor the resume for each and every job, but you're going to tailor the resume for each type of job.
Mhm.
So if you decide I'm going to do either marketing or project management, you want to have a project management version of your resume.
Yeah, that will be different.
Exactly.
Yeah, I will use different words and I will not put global marketing analyst.
Right.
Definitely
Exactly.
change that.
Yep.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, makes sense. Thank you for that.
Mhm.
Mhm. Okay.
So
Okay.
anything else?
Oh, you mentioned, are you going to share that contact, the
Yep.
JMB contact? Okay,
Yep.
thank
Bree Oliveri, and I've got her email address here, her Johnson & Johnson email address. So what
you.
I'll do, I'll actually share with you our entire dialogue. So you'll see what I asked, what she responded, how I followed up, what other additional information, and that kind of thing. Because it'll just help to give you some context into the conversation. And that way, whenever you do reach out to her, you can just start with whenever you want, whether it be today or some other day, is, hey, I did my mock interview with Jaz. Thank you so much for the feedback. I'll reach out to you when it gets closer to the time and with any advice or something like that, that's
Okay.
completely up to you.
Okay, so I will tell her that. And for now, I mentioned I didn't even apply yet because I wanted that. Um, should I just apply and leave it there?
So I'm not sure as far as the timing goes. So when do they recommend you apply for internships? How far ahead of time?
Well, yeah, I think now's the time, like October.
Okay.
I'm just worried because if it's only like sending the resume or that, like my question is, should I mention this contact that I just apply, something like that?
So that's a fine idea too. I don't think she doesn't do marketing, so she's on a different side of things there.
Oh,
So I don't
okay,
think
okay.
it'll be useful from that perspective.
Mm-hmm.
But it never hurts. So you don't know what someone will do.
Oh,
But yeah, she's not within that group, so I don't think that will help specifically for the internship.
okay, okay. No, I just wanted to know. Um, uh, and I have another question. Can you please share the recording afterwards? It's going to help me.
Yeah, I figured that's why I put it on there. Is I figured you'd like to look back and see the exchange.
Okay. Yes. Thank you. Thank you
Yeah,
for
this was for you.
that. Thank you.
You got it. Yeah, I'll go ahead and press stop.